On this episode of the Simplified Podcast, I sit down with Corban Nichols from Piada to talk about all things related to chart. And what I love about talking to Corban is he's deeply entrenched in how to get the most out of anything he's doing, whether that's the training that he's putting out at Piada or, in this case, all about chart. And so we hear stories about how Corban himself got the most value out of chart, and then how he now, as a heavier participant in the chart community, tries to put on conferences that help people and also help his team as he grows and develops his own team. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Corban from Piada, all about chart. Start us off with a little bit of your career journey, what you're up to today, and kind of your purview in the restaurant industry these days.
Yeah, I've been in restaurants since I was about 14 years old, working in the back of a bagel shop in my parents' church way back in the day. And I've just always stayed in restaurants, whether it was working as a server, busser, bartender, dishwasher, whatever the case was, all the way through my early 20s and in my mid 20s. And that's actually when I started working at Chipotle Mexican Grill. Started as a team member there, just really because I wanted free food. I was already spending so much on the food anyways, going and eating there like 6 or 7 times a week, that just made sense to get a little bit more bang for my buck. But as I was there, I started progressing through their career path and moved into joining the training team as a part of their new restaurant opening team. I was also, after about 3 years as a part of the NRO team, I was brought aboard the regional training manager team, helped create their certified training restaurant path and what that was going to look like, which they still follow and use to this day, which is really cool. And then I got out of training for a little bit and went into operations integration, where basically anything that was going to be hitting the restaurant from a lens of like menu or ops innovation or equipment funneled through myself and my team. And after doing that for about 3 years, I spent close to 10 years in total with Chipotle. I was offered a position as Director of Restaurant Excellence and Training at Piada Italian Street Food out in Columbus, Ohio. And going from a brand that I was able to help them grow from 1,200 units to 3,000 units, that was incredible. It was a wonderful opportunity, but I wanted to be able to explore some of the white space and some of my personal philosophies when it came to training and execution. So took the opportunity to join a brand that was 39 restaurants at the time, and now we're opening our 55th next week. It's in less than 3 years. We've grown almost 40%, which is pretty incredible. And since I've joined Piada, I've been promoted to Vice President of Restaurant Excellence. So now I oversee all of training, certified training, learning and development content, as well as talent acquisition.
Quite the journey and evolution from bagels to running it all.
That's it.
That's great.
I don't know if I run it all. I have a great team that does most of that for me.
That helps. Give us a sense of the scale of Piada these days. Like, how big, how many employees, how many locations?
We're 55 locations. Coming up, we're opening our 55th right now, and we have about 4 more on the horizon this year. And then we're going to start growing double digits every year for the foreseeable future. Right now, we're at about 1,300 employees system wide. So it's an interesting change. It's an interesting dynamic. But what we've really done over the course of the past few years is try and level set and figure out, how do we create something that catches fire? How do we create and find that tipping point where people are going to be sold out and ready to go for what it is that we're doing? How do we flip the scales from hiring all of our salaried positions externally to developing internally? And I think that's what a lot of companies have to struggle with and find their voice, because Piada started in 2010. I joined the organization in 2021, so it had been 11 years to get to that place where it was 39 restaurants. And now to be able to grow and have, 16 that we've been able to open in the last 2.5 years is pretty incredible.
That's huge. And along that way, like you have found Chart as a conference, and you have found a community of people. What, like, as you're experiencing this growth and you're ascending in your career and learning these things, you are making the time to go to this conference regularly. Tell me about Chart and the role it plays in your evolution in the career and the problems you're facing today.
Yeah, I think that the great thing about Chart is not just the conferences, it's the community that you have at your fingertips at all time. Whether it's the benefits of being a member, as far as the Ask My Peers function that they have available online, which is fantastic because anything that you run into, whether your organization completely melds with somebody else's or not, you can still ask the question and get feedback from people that are going through something very similar to yourself. So it's an incredible community. The conferences are just a bonus where you get all of that added learning and information, just completely digestible and palatable in a way that is a very unique experience where you're surrounded by your people. That's the best way that I can quantify Chart, is if you're in training at all, or even just in operations excellence and execution, it's your people. It's the people that create the training. It's the people that understand why the training is important. It's the people that are passionate about doing things the right way. And of course, you get the energetic side of everybody as well. Even the introverts are pretty extroverted when it comes to the conference side of things.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You've mentioned community, and like the Ask Me feature is really interesting. How is there something you've learned from Chart that you've been able to take back and implement, or that's influenced how you've approached your work, whether it was at Chipotle or now at Piada?
Yeah, completely. So a little background, my first Chart conference was 2018 in Boca Raton, and I was with Piada, I was with Chipotle at the time of going to my first Chart conference. And I was just too cool for school. I was there because I was being asked to be there. I was being told I had to be there. And really, I had no desire to be there. I thought that, everything that I did was perfect. And how could I learn from any of these other people in the industry whatsoever? So I spent the majority of the time in my own pocket, my own team, and really didn't interact with anybody. It wasn't until the last day that I was doing a team activity. There was a team building game, and I started meeting other people and realizing, oh, maybe I was kind of wrong about this. Like, these people are pretty cool. They're energetic. They're the type of people that I would like to surround myself with. And then I just stopped going to Chart because I changed career paths. I went into operation services versus training. And so it wasn't really an option to go to a training conference or be a part of this training community because I didn't feel like it intersected with my life at that point in time. Fast forward to joining Piada and taking over this training function, and there being almost zero training culture as an organization just because of, it being stale and the pandemic, and there hadn't really been a team in place since 2017 prior to me taking over. And it was like, I need as much help as possible. Not only am I just kind of by myself doing this, and I had a very small team at that point in time, I didn't even know where to begin. So it was like, let me get back into Chart because I know for sure that's a community that I'll be able to relate with. And as a little aside, I had tried going to other training conferences too, to learn more from other industries. And what I found was just when it comes to hospitality, in the hospitality industry, there's nothing that competes on this level because you were getting that real-time information about what the entire industry is going through in the format that you need to train it, deploy it, and teach it. Whereas other industries, it's all classroom facilitation. And while there's some of that in the hospitality industry, like realistically, it just doesn't, it doesn't compare to what we have to do with shoulder to shoulder with digital e-learning, with the static job aids that we have, and how can we get this information down to the frontline employee as quickly as possible and as seamlessly as possible. So I just decided I was going to jump back into chart, and that was in Austin, Texas in 2022. And immediately it changed my life. Like the conversations that you can have in that moment and realize, wow, this community is something that's totally different. It smacked me in the face right away, because the person that I ran into the moment I got there and went straight to the registration table, the person that greeted me was the same person that I had played this table game, this team building game with in Boca in 2018. Fast forward 4 years later, they remembered my name. They remembered the last time that they saw me. They were welcoming. And it was just like, wait, where am I? This doesn't make sense comparatively to what I've been through in my life before. And so I've been able to take a ton away, whether it's how to utilize artificial intelligence in my daily work, being that we are so small and scrappy. How can I give the best prompts to get the best outcome, to where I have to do just the minor amounts of editing? How can I use these features and functions of things like Articulate 360 or gamification, or how can I find the best learning management system, or how can I use my LMS in a way that's going to be better and more insightful and more intuitive for my team? There's so much that it's tough to just pinpoint and put it all into one perspective as far as what I've taken away or learned.
What I love about that story, there's like 9 things as you went through it. But
it's a long story.
No, it's great though, because what I love is like, it's a conference of people that are in the hospitality industry. And it sounds like you feel it. Like the fact that you're greeted by somebody, that's what we teach in restaurants, is to greet somebody, remember their name, make them feel like they're part of the family. And you 4 years later coming in, like you can tell that it's a conference led by people in the hospitality industry, which seems to be fundamentally different than any conference I've been to.
It really is, because where most conferences are, it almost feels like most conferences are platforms for the people that are a function of the conference, right? If you're speaking at a conference, that conference is meant for you to speak at it. This conference is completely different. This community is completely different, where it's really by trainers for trainers, whether you're in the hotel industry or the restaurant industry, whether you're corporate owned or franchised, it doesn't matter. There's still so many things that we're all going through and all battling day in and day out. And how can we shift the mindset, shift our adjustment to all tackle it together? And that's what's really cool. And you get the hospitality side of it too, where people are actually, it's a complete volunteer-led organization. Everybody is volunteering their time. It's a nonprofit. And so you're getting people that are doing it for the love of the game, which doesn't really exist in other venues or arenas, because it's all for profit. And ultimately they're just there to make a quick buck. Whereas Chart, we just had our 105th conference in Charlotte. It's been around for ages, 2 conferences a year. And you start thinking about it like, man, this goes back quite a while. And this has lasted this long just based off of this volunteer-led and run mindset that it has.
It's fantastic. And it, like, you can tell it resonates with people, because everybody talks about the connection you get, the feeling you get when you're there. Talk to me about like the specifics of what goes on for somebody that's never been there. Give me the like 4 or 5 things that happen. Like, a conference is normally a conference. You're in a conference room with a bunch of stuff, but Chart is so much more than that. So bring it to life a little bit for somebody who's never been there before.
Well, so if you've never been to one of these conferences before, the first place that I'll start is the summer conference and the winter conference are 2 totally different experiences. And they're both fantastic, but they accomplish different things. So the winter conference is traditionally a little bit smaller as far as people that are able to attend. But through the winter conference, it's really all about competencies. So based off of you or your position level, what competencies do I need to learn to be successful in my career or my job? So you have the instructional design track, you have the manager track, the trainer track, or the executive track that you can take. And through each of those, it's all tailored by trainers to be about what do you need to know as you're either entering this venue of your career, this avenue of your career, or what do you need to know in what you're currently doing that maybe you don't know yet. And even if you go to it, like the tracks that I've taken, it hasn't all been new. I've known some of the pieces, but it's reaffirming to learn, okay, good. I do know this as well as I thought I did, or maybe I need to brush up here a little bit more, or here's a tip that I can take right away and put into play in my daily life. So that's fantastic. You also have tons of keynotes that are available that are speaking to you about leadership, development, learning, just all different pieces that still tie back into what you do day in and day out. And then part of it is we steal shamelessly. So you can just take something from anything that you learn and just put it right into action the moment you get back to work, which is honestly pretty great. And it also works well to be able to come back to your organization and say, hey, look, see the value? This is something that I'm bringing to the table right away that I just learned from this organization. So that's fantastic. Summer is a little bit more of a grab bag where it's a ton of different breakout sessions that are really all just led by people within the industry and members of Chart that have something that they want to give or something that they want to share, or maybe best tips and tricks or practices. I've had the opportunity to lead some of these breakouts as well. And you're able, rather than stick within just that mold of the competency track training, you're able to have more of a grab bag of, oh, well, I want to learn more about this. I want to learn more about this, and kind of choose your own adventure through the course of the conference. Still plenty of keynotes and interactivity all the way through. And then at the end of every night, there's the hospitality suite where everybody gets together and hangs out and just gets to know each other and plays games, has fun, lots of laughs, I'll say. No matter what city you're in or no matter who you're in, there's going to be tons of that as well.
That's great. That's a lot. I love the breakdown between both because it's two very different experiences.
Totally different experiences.
Yeah, really good.
And depending on what your organization is trying to take away, right? That's a great way to be able to sell it back to your team and to your leadership. If I'm looking to develop somebody on my team, bringing them to the winter conference is so important because I can put them in the track or push them to attend the track that they should be attending based off of what it is that they're going through or learning or doing or growing with. And then being able to take that right back, they have quick takeaways that they can bring back to the table and bring to the team and say, hey, this is what I took. I've also seen larger organizations where they have, 8, 10, 12 people in attendance at a given conference, and they divide and conquer. So at the summer conference is a great time to be able to do that, where you're having a whole onslaught of a team that's with you and being able to say, okay, who's going to what? And then we're all going to regroup at the end of this and almost do a digest, a debrief back to everybody, which is also a great way to maximize the value there too.
It also goes, it's like L&D for L&D, learners for learners, trainers by trainers, as you put it, but like you figure out how to learn, how to break it down, how to use this as a core development opportunity and get the most value out of it.
Exactly. Well, that's what we definitely have to do when it comes to training. We always have to find, how do we maximize the value? How do we get the best ROI on our investment right away? Like that's a non-negotiable, because otherwise we know that we're going to be the first to hit the chopping block or the scrap pile when the budget season comes around if we're not able to prove value and return on that investment right away.
That spot on. I think we can all resonate with that. I think we're all in that boat for sure. Let me end with this. If you could, why do you keep going back? You've been a bunch. What keeps you going back? Given that, like, if you think about what we're all trying to do, we're all running restaurants. The operations of a restaurant generally the same, and the things that you need to know to run a restaurant or to teach in a restaurant, like we're all managing food cost, we're all managing labor, we're trying to bring in people and retain them. Those are generally the same. So why keep going to a hospitality conference over and over again?
Well, there's two main reasons I can think of. And first and foremost is that even though we're all managing the same things, the dynamic is shifting within the industry. And so to be able to stay ahead of the curve and on top of anything that's happening, this is the place to be, because you're able to stay completely one step ahead, or at least on track. Without going to this conference, I do feel like if I hadn't been going every conference over the course of the past few years, I would be behind already, that I wouldn't have seen where the trends are shifting. So that's been very helpful and insightful to be able to stay ahead. The second piece, though, really is about the community. We are a special breed of people as trainers in the restaurant and hospitality industry specifically. We sign up for a thankless job many times. We don't have specific metrics that we're tied to or associated with that we bonus off of, or that are financially lucrative to us. We're in this for literally the benefit of others and to make the industry rise as a whole. And it takes a special person to do that. And sometimes our battery gets drained, right? I've been there. I'm sure you've been there, where your battery just gets drained. The great thing about Chart is not only is it a community of like-minded people that are very similar to yourself, that you can learn from, grow with, enjoy being around, it recharges that battery and almost reignites that flame, that spark that you have inside when you do find that community of people. And I've been blessed to where I have lifelong friends now that I know for the rest of my life. I'll vacation with these people. I will be checking on them every month, every weekend, right? Just touching base continually. But the people that I've brought to Chart have found their own community. And so even within this giant community, you have your little populations of like-minded individuals that you relate to and that you start working with, and having that lifelong partnership that's going to come out. And then also, you never know when you're going to need to pick up the Rolodex and call somebody to come join your team, or maybe you're going to get the call for you to come join their team. So it's great to have from a networking perspective as well. But ultimately for me, why do I keep going back? Stay ahead of the trend and recharge my battery. Like, that's just really what it comes down to.